This is the Tallahassee Business Podcast, brought to you by the Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce. Before we begin, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Event Owl, who's helping clients across the nation elevate virtual, hybrid, and live events. Learn more at eventowl.com. Thanks for joining us and enjoy this episode of the Tallahassee Business Podcast.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Sue Dick with the Greater Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce. Excited today to be speaking with Robin Hassler Thompson with Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center. Many of you may know it as STAC, and it is a very important and very serious discussion. And Robin, I really want to thank you for being here. I think our listeners are going to walk away with a lot of great information, probably enlightened, and hopefully, and I'm positive, will feel empowered to get involved in moving forward. But if we can just hear a hello from you, and maybe you can also let us know a little bit about your journey in getting from the state and now to a local initiative that is so important for us.
Thank you, Sue. It's so great to be here today and to be talking to you about this issue. I'm really grateful to you in the chamber, too. It's great to be a member as well, have our organization be involved with you all. So I have been involved with this issue probably around 14 years now. I started working with the FSU Center for the Advancement of Human Rights, who invited me to be part of their statewide effort to build kind of awareness and to talk about the issue of human trafficking. And then from there, our local U.S. Attorney's Office, then headed by Pamela Marsh, formed the Big Bend Coalition Against Human Trafficking. And as we were doing our work at the state level with FSU, we were going around talking about how important it is to have local efforts in place. And of course, those of us at the coalition realized we don't have a local effort in place. And so I, along with some others, co-founded the Survive and Thrive Advocacy Center. That was back in 2015.
Okay. And we're going to reference that as STAC just to kind of keep it flowing. But, you know, maybe it is about human trafficking, but maybe if you can give a little bit more of the definition and really what this entails and what it fully encompasses.
Sure. Human trafficking includes both sex and labor trafficking, and that means the forcing or exploiting of one person by another person for the purposes of sex or commercial sex or labor. So you're really talking about, for example, if you're an adult and you're forced to commit any acts of prostitution, anything around commercial sex, that's a form of sex trafficking. If you're a child, you don't even need to see that force, fraud, and coercion. Any child who is even induced to perform any kind of commercial sex or labor in Florida is deemed a victim of human trafficking, because as a child you can't consent, right? So that's the whole idea around protecting children. But for us, often people need to think about this as forced labor. Anything where a person doesn't have the ability to leave the situation. And so we see these cases all over the state of Florida. In fact, Florida is number 3 in the nation when it comes to the numbers of human trafficking cases that are called into our national hotline. So we are front and center on this issue.
Well, this is a very serious, and as a Chamber of Commerce, we know to have a community that we all are working together. It's important to talk about these concerns that we all have, and also the role that businesses and our members and really nonprofits, everyone in our community can play in this. And part of it is having information. It's knowing what we're talking about. And so talk a little bit, if you can, more about Leon County and our proximity to why this is something that should be on our radar, and what the statistics are showing. I know on the statewide you said, but really for our listeners, really to get an understanding of what we're talking about and what that looks like in certain situations.
Sure. And it's really important to know that human trafficking is both sex and labor trafficking. Very often people think, only of sex trafficking when they hear the words human trafficking. And part of that is because a lot of the cases that we've seen, last November, the big Operation Stolen Innocence case here locally, 170 plus arrests. That was one child, by the way, who was sex trafficked, if you can imagine the horror of that. And so often people think of sex trafficking. They don't realize that people are both sex and labor trafficked maybe together. If someone is working in a hotel, it's very possible, as a housekeeper, for example, she might be raped or might be also required to have sex as part of keeping her job, right? So there are all kinds of victimizations that flow back and forth on this issue. In our area, we've seen a lot of sex trafficking cases. Tallahassee Police Department has brought those forward. But one of the things that people don't realize is that, labor trafficking is happening here too. Our caseload at STAC has tripled since the onset of the pandemic, and half of those cases are labor trafficking cases. And those are cases of people who've come into our area. They may have fled a trafficking situation, a labor trafficking situation in another area. In the past, we've assisted people who were victimized after Hurricane Michael, after there's a crisis of any kind, which includes, of course, now the pandemic and all of the economic downfall from that. I just read a report today that labor trafficking in terms of agriculture has increased during the pandemic. And in terms of people labor trafficked at hotels, restaurants, service industry jobs, it's gone down because of the shutdown, right? So now we're also very concerned that as we see the rent moratorium, the eviction moratorium be lifted, that there might be more people who are economically insecure and desperate, and that's when traffickers start to prey on them.
And you've indicated, I think what you've outlined is the fact that not only are we talking Leon County, but we have neighboring counties and neighboring and bordering state lines, as well as interstate system that runs right through our communities.
Exactly. So you could see our area as both a place of origin of trafficking. We might see people whose visas expire. You might see people we've had cases of parents trafficking their own children, U.S. citizens. It's not just immigrants. That's another myth sometimes people have. We have people who come through our area on I-10, I-75. We're 30 minutes from the Georgia line. Traffickers know that. And you don't need movement to have trafficking, but often people do because that's another way to isolate and really make someone who's vulnerable even more vulnerable. And anytime there are these kinds of economic insecurities and vulnerabilities, we've seen, with our homeless shelter, with other places where people have started to flock to, and again, since the pandemic, nonprofits are hurting. We're trying to cope with the realities of life, and it's really hard to get services for people.
Well, and I know that Leon County recently, and we were talking about it as well within the Chamber, our Business Advocacy Committee, thanks to your leadership, and Heidi Otway, a past chairman for the Chamber of Commerce, brought this to our attention during a recent meeting. Leon County had a board meeting within the last month, and they've allocated funding to go towards this issue, and it's called the Business Certification. And you will have the more formal name for it. I know it's in progress, but the reason we wanted to do this is to really say this is a program that's out there and that we want to communicate to our businesses and let them learn a little bit more on what their role could possibly be. So if you can maybe talk about where we are with that and really the role of businesses and what you've seen already from some businesses.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, we are so grateful to Chairman Rick Miner and to the Leon County Commission for this and to the leadership of the Chamber, because you're right. Heidi Otway, Sammy Dixon, and your advocacy committee really embraced the importance of this and really see how businesses have a front and center role in ending human trafficking, because eyes and ears in the community all the time are out there. And it doesn't matter. It could be a hotel, it could be a cleaning service, it could be a restaurant. I mentioned agriculture before. It could be a small business, could be a large business. It could be the financial sector. And I have to tell you, one of the best things that recently happened was STAC was hired by Capital City Bank to provide training for all of their public-facing staff. So tellers, people who are taking loan applications, things like that. We did 3 trainings, and after the second one, I actually got a call from them asking if I could connect them with some law enforcement, folks that we work with, because they had spotted something. And then the Florida Department of Law Enforcement money laundering expert called me back and said, "Robin, thank you for that, because we thought we saw something, they confirmed it. And so, you don't want to be a financial institution where traffickers are laundering money using your services. And so often it's really a combination, even within the bank, of making sure people on the backside of the bank who are analyzing all those transactions know what to look for, and then people who are seeing people come in know what to look for. The same is true of really every business in town. Businesses want to do the right thing, and they want to do the right thing by their staff, by the public who comes into, they want to patronize businesses that are doing the right thing. And so this is one way, I think, with this training, that businesses are going to be able to have a very easy, direct way to learn how to spot, to recognize red flags, and then to be able to refer, whether that's referring someone for help and assistance to STAC or to one of our community partners, or whether it's a call to law enforcement. It really does take a village. Everybody needs to play their role, and this is a huge milestone, I think, for our community.
So as a chamber, we want to promote that. Walk us through maybe the timeline or when the certification and the training process will be moving forward, and how can our listeners really find out more information directly, if it's whether going to your website or if there are other avenues they can find out more.
Sure. Our website is surviveandthriveadvocacy.org. And so that is one thing you could do right now, is you can go on that website. You can sign up for our newsletter. We do trainings, by the way, every month. We just did one for the financial industry. We've done one for the healthcare world. So please go ahead and do that. We hope to have a beta testing on this in October. We definitely want to roll it out by the end of the year and look toward having the certification. It's by the way, it's optional. Businesses don't have to do this. We hope within a year we'll have trained 1,000 people, and I hope at least 200 businesses. But what you would do is you'd take the training online, you take a brief quiz, and then depending on how many people in your business get trained, you get a certification, and that'll help the public really know you've done this. That's a really good thing. It helped, I hope, increase patronage at the businesses that are there, and just people will be doing the right thing. The other part is business owners are a lot of other people, faith communities. They are neighbors. They are people who are walking down the street. Knowing about human trafficking is going to help them in all those other areas and really open, I think, a lot of eyes.
Well, Robin, as a chamber, we want to support this effort, as support our community. We know there's a lot of individuals that want to do that. Please stay in touch with us. We're happy to try and continue to promote more and more information to our members and our non-members. As you said, it's everyone within our community needs to be focused on this and collaborating together to create a safer community for everyone. Any last words you want to share? Or
I just have to say how grateful I am to be here with you all today. I think that it's absolutely the case that we do this together, and that's how we're going to make it happen. So, Sue, thank you for all your leadership over the years and with this, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Robin.